Are you ready?
It's all about posture. That's why we do yoga.
Makeup lady, come over. Kris, thank you for coming in. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for asking me.
You're welcome. It came about really because of chance. We can blame him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're the podcast that you did previously with him.
We'd been talking a bunch about yoga sequencing and where different styles and sequences come from. And we thought we would get together and talk. And then it turned out to be a conversation about you, basically.
Really?
About how you were so instrumental in his journey of becoming...
I call him my yin baby.
And you're the yin mama. Okay. Yin I didn't know you were called that until I watched your other podcast from Resoluna. Anyone who's watching this, check out Kris's recent podcast from Resoluna. Just go ahead and give a short intro.
My name is Kris Blunt. I am a teacher here, a yoga teacher here in Las Vegas. I come from a background of dance, having danced 10 years in New York with companies such as Alvin Ailey II, Armitage Gone Dance, Complexions Contemporary Ballet Company, as well as Lion King on Broadway. And that's really why I came out here, because they used to have a Lion King at Mandalay Bay. So my husband at the time was in the show, and that's what brought us out here to Vegas.
What year was that when you came to Vegas?
2011.
That was at the depth of the financial crash when things were very inexpensive, and the crash had happened a few years prior, and you ended up in Vegas.
Yeah.
And you've been here since.
And I've been here since.
Did you start teaching yoga in Vegas right when you landed?
I did, because at that point in my career, I was already beginning to transition out of dance and moving more into yoga. So I got I started practicing yoga. I got introduced to it in college, but didn't really stick. And then in 2005, really went in, loved it, started to do it on a regular basis. And then in 2007, I got certified. So I've been taking it for 20 years and teaching it for about 18. I got certified with YogaWorks in New York and taught at one of their studios. I used to have like a weekend class on Sundays right before I go into Lion King and do my double, my matinee and my evening. And then once we moved here, auditioned for, at the time it was, or Yoga Sanctuary with Sherry, remember?
Yeah. Still there.
Yeah.
Sherry still teaches there.
Yeah,
right?
She does. And so went and auditioned with her. I had a great audition. She seemed to really like me. And I feel like in a matter of a couple of months, I went from being offered one class to having like 8 on the schedule. So
while you're doing Lion King?
No, once I got out here, I didn't do Lion King.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you dancing or performing in Vegas when you came out, though? Or
No, it was really just because both me and my ex-husband were in the show.
Oh, okay.
And then he got the transfer. They didn't really have a spot for a girl, but they're like, since you're out here, we'll call you. But then literally, I think 6 months later, the show closed down, and then Michael Jackson went into it, and that's what's there now. So,
it's the same. Okay.
It's the same theater at Mandalay Bay, yeah.
Yoga Sanctuary was your first landing spot for yoga.
Yes.
And you're still there on and off?
I'm teaching.
Workshops?
Yeah, I was going to say I'm teaching trainings there. I don't really have any set classes there.
Okay.
Yeah, I primarily teach at True Fusion and Kintsugi.
The training that you're teaching starts very soon, right?
I have a training coming up in October. I wish I knew those dates right off bat, but I want to say it starts Wednesday, October 15th, and concludes whatever that Sunday is, October 27th or 25th. So,
and this is yin yoga training specifically?
This is a yin yoga training.
Do students need to have a 200-hour before they...
No, not necessarily. Now that I've been doing trainings for a few years, I see it kind of go both ways. There's the folks that come in that have a 200-hour and now they want to learn yin. Or I see folks that are kind of a little scared to take a 200-hour because it's a lot. And so yin, with only teaching 26 poses, it's just like dipping a toe in and trying to get a taste and a feel for the waters before they go full on. So I've seen it go both ways.
I love that you're teaching yin trainings. There aren't a ton of them in Vegas.
I think I'm the only one.
Yeah, and right now you are.
Yeah.
Maybe we've seen some other true yin specific trainings, but I don't know that any other studios have ever even done a yin training that I'm aware of.
Yeah, we could be wrong, but I don't think so.
I love that you're doing it. And you've done quite a few. It's usually once a year in October?
Yeah, it's typically once a year in the fall. Sometimes it's been September, oftentimes October. So we have the October one coming up, but then I will also have one in 2026 in February, so sort of winter time.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You found your groove.
I did. And that's all thanks to Jessica. Jessica, who used to be the director of True Fusion.
What a great director she was, and yoga teacher, yoga practitioner, and friend.
Yeah, she used to come to my classes all the time, and she'd be like, Kris, have you ever thought about teaching a training? And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. She's like, no, you're ready. That was back like I think pre-COVID,
She recognizes talent for sure.
Yeah.
And since she had a baby recently, Was she involved with any prenatal yoga with you?
I mean, she did when she was pregnant. She came and took my classes
Nice.
quite a few times.
Nice.
She's been to my classes after she had her baby. But no, we haven't specifically done anything prenatal together.
Back to when you landed at Yoga Sanctuary, you went from having one to, were you considered a full-time yoga teacher?
Yeah, since I
that
moved
point?
to Vegas, I've tried to make it my career. Not tried, I am.
Oh, yeah, we are. I am too. I'm with you.
Yeah. I just think that's just me. I've never really had a 9 to 5. You know, I grew up dancing. It became a career. So I've always been more of a creative and artistic type. Clocking in and clocking out, you know, certain times of the week. It's not really my groove. It's not my style.
It was your dad's groove, though. He was like, why don't you make dance your minor?
right. So you saw the podcast.
I like it. Everyone should watch Chris's podcast with Resoluna.
Yeah. I definitely have always tried to do what I love, and there's a belief that the money will come. So that's what I live by.
This concept that you just said, let's get a little spiritual for a second, because that's something deep that many people maybe would like to have if they had it, but most people don't. Most people have a fear about where's my next paycheck going to come from, especially if they're in a job that's not a regular paycheck.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of fear. I'm lucky, I feel, to have the same kind of concept where I spend maybe a little bit too freely sometimes, but I just know that the money will come.
Yeah.
If we could teach that, I think people would sign up for that class.
Yeah.
How would you approach to teach a concept like that?
I think it's a firm belief in who you are and the work that you've put in. Just like with dance, there's a certain discipline that comes. I mean, yes, you're doing it because there's a love of movement, but there's also the discipline of making sure you're going to company class, making sure you're taking care of your body, making sure you're eating good foods and keeping your body healthy. The same thing can be applied to any career or anything that you choose to do. There's a certain amount of discipline that has to come with you just can't love to do something and think like, oh, because I love it, everything will work out for me. It's like, no, you have to put in the work and you have to put in the time. And I think there's certain qualities that are developed when you do that. And I feel like the world that we live in, those type of things are often rewarded or noticed.
Thank you for that. At first glance, when we hear you say you do what you love and money comes, it almost sounds magic or maybe even woo-woo and like, yeah, right. But when you just explained it, it's absolutely not that at all. In the real estate world, I have 22 years of history in the real estate industry. We've taken 1 billion trainings on mindset and discipline, success or reward or results. It's being prepared and opportunity. When the opportunity presents itself and you're prepared, the magic happens there. It's not really magic at all. It's what you said. You love doing it, so you do the actual things. You put the time in, you do the disciplines, you show up, and you prepare your body, your mind, your life circumstances. And then when the opportunity arrives, you're ready, you're there. Chance and I talked about that too. There's very little, if any, I believe the universe does have a little magic. There's a little bit of magic.
Oh, I do. I totally believe in magic.
But you can't...
Do you believe in magic? And I hope you do.
Charles, get the guitar. Ready? It's more putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And although you and I were both known as relatively spiritual yoga teachers, and we like to incorporate more of the metaphysics, it's not just fitness for us.
Yeah.
Remember the movie The Secret? Did you ever watch that movie?
You know, I never really watched the movie, but I did read the book.
Oh, well, okay. Same thing. I love that, but I feel like they missed the whole part about you have to frickin' put in the work. Like you have to, it's not just intention. It's not just making
It's
the
just
biggest.
not like the manifesting and the...
It's not just that. We have these
yeah.
physical bodies in the physical world. We have to go drive to an office, interview for a job, wake up and take a shower and go. Like it's actual work. It's not just, I'm going to imagine really hard. You got to imagine a little bit because we believe in magic, but it's doing the work.
Yeah.
Back to Yoga Sanctuary when you landed. When did you explore other teaching scenarios after you were teaching at Yoga Sanctuary?
I was teaching at Yoga Sanctuary for a while, and then I had Zion, and I took a year off to just adjust to this new role that had been presented to me being a mama. And then I went back and I started with, one class a week and slowly started to build up. And I think It was really when True Fusion, Summerlin, and Blue Diamond opened, because they opened in fall of 2016. That, I don't know, I'm always really good with dates.
Yeah. So Eastern opened in
opened
14.
in 14, but I don't live in Henderson.
Right.
So I didn't.
So you're
really,
right. A couple of years later, Blue Diamond.
And I was really good friends with Angela Moya. Remember, she was the first director of
Love Angela.
Summerlin. And also really good friends with Lisa Davis, who was also in charge of Blue Diamond. It wasn't really until 2016, and those two gals reached out to me, and they're like, "Hey, Kris, we're opening up a new yoga studio. Would you want to teach?" That I actually had to make a choice, because remember, Sherry didn't. She didn't allow, if you taught at one studio, you couldn't teach at another. So I kind of had to make a choice, and that's when I was like, "Well, I'm gonna go try something new."
Of course. Have you since gone back to Yoga Sanctuary to teach actual classes?
I actually haven't taught group classes at Yoga Sanctuary since then, but I've gone back to do trainings.
So let's see. You came to Vegas 2011, had Zion, what?
2013.
13? Okay. And then True Fusion happened. I'm trying to build up to the birth of Vegas Gone Yoga Festival.
The same year that I had Zion. Remember the first year? I don't know if you were a part of it the first year. I was walking around pregnant,
I probably
telling
wasn't.
vendors where to go.
I think I was not even a teacher. What year was the first year of the festival?
2013.
Okay. I did my 200-hour program with Zeke in 2013.
Okay.
Zeke Vincent. I should have been there at least. What the heck?
Yeah, like we had it in September of 2013, and Zion was born in November. Like, I was very pregnant when I hosted the very first festival.
You are amazing. Wow. I did not know that.
I was like waddling around telling people what to do, organizing,
I really wanted to talk about it. That was huge for me. I just love that you created a yoga festival for Las Vegas. I think a lot of our viewers might be pleasantly surprised to hear that we actually had a legit yoga festival for 6 years?
6 years. And then 2020 happened, COVID, and it kind of changed the nature of things. And then I've just never really picked it back up.
Well, for sure. Could you summarize the genesis of it? Like chapter 1, Vegas Gone Yoga. Did you wake up at night, you're like, oh, I'm going to do a festival? Like, how did it?
2 reasons.
Okay.
2 reasons. So I moved out here in 2011, just been feeling it out, getting a taste for the yoga in Vegas. And I thought it was very interesting that it's in Vegas, Sin City, right? It's known for the Strip. It's known for the casinos. It's known for having a good time and the parties and all sorts of debauchery that can happen, right? And I was I thought that's, the perception I had before moving to Vegas. And then you move to Vegas and you realize, oh no, there's a bunch of like-minded people practicing yoga, eating healthy, and choosing a more conscientious lifestyle. So that's why I called it Vegas Gone Yoga, because it speaks to our time. Remember all those VHS videos? Girls Gone Wild? Yeah.
100%. I shouldn't know that.
So it was my take on, it's not necessarily Girls Gone Wild, it's Vegas Gone Yoga.
I don't think many people would know that. So this is why I wanted.
Yeah, because people are always like, how did you, why that title?
But you also danced for a dance company
and
called...
And I was Armitage Gone Dance. Yeah, yeah.
Now, I wonder if they got it from Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, so that's one reason I kind of came up with the festival, just to highlight that that's not all that makes up Vegas. And then my second reason for creating the festival was I had realized, I'd been here a year and a half or so, and I had realized that the word yoga means union, to yoke, a joining of some sort. And I felt like the yoga community was very disconnected. I felt like this studio didn't talk to that studio. This owner didn't like that owner.
It's kind of still that way in many ways.
And so I was like, I wanted to create an environment where we could all gather in a neutral place, Springs Preserve, and I had gone around to all the different studios, and I could almost like select a representative or two from each of the studios, so we had almost like a little yoga house of Congress,
Really, like a committee.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of like my reason for creating it. It's just that I wanted to unify a community I felt was very disconnected.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And the committee was the planning committee?
No, I mean, it's just like making sure I represented all the studios so no studio felt that they were left out per se. And then, just picking who's the teacher that everyone loves at that studio, or even just as yoga teachers, we can't always go and take everybody's classes. I'm not going to drive all the way over to Henderson to take a class from the most popular teacher there. So it was just for one weekend you can come and explore and take all those teachers that you didn't necessarily get to, or teachers can take from each other. So yeah, but it's more important to create a sense of stronger community.
It worked.
Yeah.
From the several times I was fortunate enough to attend and super fortunate enough to participate in teaching, I think your objectives were slayed. But both. You showed people who weren't aware that Vegas has more than just debauchery.
Yeah.
And 100%, we all came together.
Yeah, for one weekend, right? And it grew. Initially, I just did it on Saturday, and then it grew to Saturday and Sunday, and then we did the Friday night Gloga. So it grew to like a 3-day event.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the Gloga was fun.
Oh, so good.
And we brought out big influencers at the time, like Laura Sai-Kora. Remember?
I remember her. Yes,
Yeah.
proficient in handstands, and I think she even had a little baby at one point doing handstands. Her
Yeah,
daughter,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that you had brought in some yoga celebrities, you called them.
Yeah.
Do you miss it? Do you miss the festival and planning it? Probably not planning, but
Yes and no. Well, actually, I love to plan.
Oh my God.
I'm
Weirdo.
a very organized person.
Yes,
so
you are.
I love to see like organization come to life.
very cool. Okay.
That part, I miss the creativity aspect, the part of like going and selecting what teachers are going to be on the schedule, the roster, the lineup. I miss putting together a schedule. The part that I don't miss is there's a lot of people to please, the vendors and the sponsors. So sometimes I feel like the vendors are some of the more challenging parts
for sure.
of the festival, because one vendor's like, I want to be by the door, there's more foot traffic, or it's too much, or it's not enough, or it's too hot, or I want to be outside. No, I want to be inside. And it's just like, oh my God, you guys are never happy.
There's that.
Yeah, so that part was a bit challenging for me. And the sponsors were great, but even the sponsors sometimes are just like, hey, I want to make sure like I get signage everywhere, and how come my name isn't right on the top, or
Because you didn't pay the price to get your name on. Fork over a couple more thousand.
that too, So there was like the dealing with the teachers and the actual creating of the schedule that I loved, but sometimes it was like maybe what you would call the admin stuff that wasn't necessarily, I wasn't so thrilled with.
Looking back on it, what are your feelings and thoughts, just generally, looking back on your journey through the genesis of it, through the end when COVID happened? What does it make you feel?
I'm so glad that I did it. Through doing it, like I created a lot of bonds with teachers like you, and
That is when we
that's when we became good friends, you and the whole, because I was just going around and visiting, be like, hey, would you be in my festival? But I didn't know these people. Now people like Susan and Greg Holmes have become my dear friends.
Right,
You've
right.
become my dear friend.
I think
Rachel is one of my good friends. Angela
Oh,
Albuquerque,
okay.
who was my my wingman. She was, or wingwoman.
Yeah, man.
My second in command, we became good friends, and now she's doing events,
Right.
It created a lot of bonds with people in the city and I still have those bonds.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
If it were to come back in some capacity, how do you think it could come back? If it did.
I don't know. Is anyone even doing yoga festivals anymore? Remember Wanderlust and all that? I hate to say it. I sometimes wonder if it was just kind of like a fad. Was that, I was just kind of riding the wave of the times? Because I don't really know of,
There are.
they're festivals, but like yoga festivals.
Right. You're right. We're in different times.
Yeah.
With prices being where they are for everything, inflation after COVID. I actually had the opportunity to talk to two of the administrative people from the Wanderlust Festival down in Costa Rica, and I asked them, what the heck, where is it? Can we bring that? Because I had some truly amazing experiences at the Wanderlust festivals, and the festival here in Vegas was a mini version of that.
Yeah.
It can be very powerful. They said the finances just do not work anymore. The public doesn't know this, but they had huge injections of money from big-time investors like Adidas, Nike, in the yoga festivals. They told me maybe I shouldn't be disclosing this to the public, but that money isn't there anymore, and the finances would never have worked without that. Didn't Mackenzie, she did a festival. There was one.
Yeah, Mackenzie did a festival. And
One
I mean,
day.
we also have the one with Mary Liz and Kris.
Of course, at Area 15. Those are awesome.
What is it? Radiance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, gosh. I wanted to bring back some of those beautiful memories. I think I have a visual of when we had our first, kind of conversation. We walked and somewhere upstairs.
I was going to say we were on the steps at
Yes.
Preserve, and we just ended up having because I'd just be like, hey, will you teach at this festival? Because I went and took your class. You were teaching at Yoga Sanctuary.
At the time,
and I went, you were teaching like a gentle movement and breathwork class or something. And I went and took it, asked you to be in the festival. And then you taught at the festival. And then literally afterwards, we went and we sat on the steps. And I feel like for like an hour or two, we had like a long conversation. And we're still having a conversation.
We're still to this day. It's such a different context now.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Kris.
Yeah.
How did the vinyasa teaching, you taught mainly vinyasa at Yoga Sanctuary at first? Or
Yes.
was it, how did that shift into yin?
When I was in New York, I got certified in something called restorative. I felt like that was really popular in New York. Sometimes you realize things are regional. And then I came out here and I taught primarily vinyasa, but I did teach a restorative class or two. This was back when Yoga Sanctuary used to have their Eastern location.
Yes.
Yeah. So I taught a restorative class, I want to say it was on Sundays there, using props and bolsters and all the things. So I did always kind of teach it.
Okay.
But it really wasn't until True Fusion opened that Angela was like, Kris, I think you would be an amazing yin teacher. And I had taken a few yin classes with Mark Balf Taylor, another woman that used to teach at Vegas Hot. Her name was Connie. And then there was a yin training being offered at Vegas Hot, and I took that. And then I started teaching. It was really because of Angela Moya. Angela Moya was like, I think you'd be really great at teaching yin. And I was like, okay. And I started to teach yin, and
you're almost
now it's all I teach pretty much. Like it's so funny. Like when you know how our subbing procedure works. So someone puts in for a sub, and I'm like, oh, I can do it. And I walk in, it's a vinyasa class, and everyone's looking around like, wait, this is vinyasa, not yin. And I'm like, you guys, I do teach vinyasa.
I know how to teach regular yoga. I can teach a sun salutation. But no more vinyasa classes on your regular weekly schedule.
No, I teach a vinyan. That's about as close as it gets. Yeah.
Vinyan's great.
Yeah.
Because you move and you get warm, and then the yin is juicier.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I like it.
Is that your favorite thing to teach?
I don't really have a favorite. I mean, I love the yin for the fact that because it moves so slow, you can drop in those nuggets of wisdom. So I really do like yin because, as you were talking about, you can now start to bring in the philosophy or the spiritual component of yoga. It's not so necessarily physically based. But then, like, I do love vinyasa because of almost, from a teacher's perspective, not necessarily from a practitioner's perspective, I love vinyasa because of the creativity. It's like dancing. It's like I get to put together some choreography. How do I want to sequence one thing into another? And then also, like, the clarity that comes with moving a little quicker. Can I be concise? Can I say it in just a couple of words and then they get the point? So it actually forces me to streamline, where sometimes with yin, you have time, so you can get a little bit more wordy.
We want you to be wordy in yin. We love your words. At least I love your words in yin.
I know, you're always talking about So I love them for different reasons. But I do love them all. I love it all. I love it all.
Yin is so different than vinyasa. If someone is only doing vinyasa strong classes at any of the studios and they like the heated, mirrored, neon lighted rooms, how do we get that person into yin? How do you think we can sell them on something more meditative?
Well, I mean, I feel like we all try to stress that you need both, right? Even if you look at the ancient Chinese symbol, it's not just black, it's not just white. It's a circle, and these two colors are conjoined by this, wavy line in the middle. And I think it's representative that you need both. So, if there's someone who is just a diehard Ashtangi or a diehard Vinyasa or a diehard heated yoga set series sort of situation, I just say, hey, you should try it out. That's all you can do. All you can do is offer. You can't really force anyone to, but, always just trying to explain the benefits of being a bit more well-rounded.
It's very important.
Yeah.
And I like the analogy of the yin-yang symbol. I mean, that's why it's called yin yoga.
Yeah.
It's the counterpart to the stronger.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a new student in one of your yin classes and you can tell they're uncomfortable and they haven't been in a situation where they're being asked to be still for a while in a regular, relatively simple pose like pigeon. And you've bolstered or blocked them up a little bit, but they're just fidgeting. What would you say to them or say to the class if you know they need something and they're just like, they can't relax?
I mean, I do feel like it's a part of the journey. If you have never carved out time to get quiet for yourself and then you're put into a situation where you're asked to get quiet, I mean, you are immediately smacked with all of the thoughts that are constantly running through your head. And that can make us all a little wiry or fidgety. So I do feel like that's just a part of the journey.
Suffer. No.
But it's remembering that you are endowed with a very powerful resource that can carry you through anything. And that's your ability to breathe.
Bingo.
I mean,
They're
this
not
is what
breathing.
I feel like yoga is all about. This is what they pay me the big bucks for, to remind people to breathe.
You and me both, yes.
Because people forget, people forget. All you can do is try to keep referencing, come back to the breath, use breath as an anchor, follow your inhale, trace your exhale. I feel like that's what we do as yoga teachers. We find creative ways to say, breathe.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
But I'm learning right now. We're finding creative ways to say frickin' breathe.
Yeah, which is so interesting because it's with us at all times, right? I mean, like, clearly it's the thing that switches the on button that we call this thing life,
The person that's tight, that's in pigeon, and you're finding a creative, beautiful, Chris Blunt-ish way to say that, which will probably melt their heart, but they go, so they're doing this. They're breathing. What would you say next? They're breathing, right?
I try not to fuss over people too much. I do try to let people have their experience and let them have their journey. I don't really say anything to anyone who is breathing heavily, or, if I can hear it and feel like it's maybe a little off or whatnot. I let them have that experience because I feel that is a part of it. A part of it is also becoming aware of your own tendencies. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, aside from maybe reminding people to breathe or asking people to breathe evenly, find a certain balance, a richness, a resonance to the breath, I don't go over to people and be like, that's a little too loud. Yeah, because I don't want to make people feel, like for some people, just trying to get there was a big deal.
Stepping into the class.
Yeah, you don't want to shame them or make them feel less than.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be right to them.
Yeah.
Your breathing needs some work. But you speak to the class in such beautiful ways. Every time I get to take your class, I always learn some things. You would just lull them into a different state, and somehow people will just relax based on your words. How spiritual do you get in class? Do you ever talk about prana? Do you ever talk about chakras and nadis? How much out of the physical, how weird do you get?
It depends on the class. Sometimes I'll sub Angela Albuquerque's chakra and meditation class. So I feel like I'm given permission to talk about chakras. With yin, I don't necessarily talk about chakras so much, but with yin, it's more the energetic channels that run through the body that we call meridians. So sometimes I'll bring that into some poses. Let's say we're doing Sphinx, talking about how we're stimulating the kidney band, the adrenals that sit on top of the kidneys, and the kidney channel. And then in terms of prana, I don't necessarily use the word prana all that much in my yoga classes. I just tend to say breath, breathe, breathing exercises. I know when you ask me to sub like your meditation and pranayama classes, I will use that. Yeah. So I'm always just kind of looking for the class and the style that I'm teaching. What do I speak to? But it's all energy. If I'm subbing for your prana meditation class, it's energy, but I'm saying prana or pranayama. If I'm subbing for Angela's chakra meditation class, it's all about chakras and nadis. If I'm teaching my yin class, it's all about energetic channels. So it's all energy. It's all subtle body, but it's just different languages.
It really is. Meridians and nadis to me are the same thing. Chakras and what are they called in Qigong? Dantian. Those are chakras also. The Near East and the Far East have different words for the same things. Even Polynesian cultures have words for prana, like mana and chi. It's the same thing, just labeled a different way and taught from a different perspective. You're so well-rounded, you know these different things, and you can slip into a pranayama meditation class and do it. Regarding the breath, to me, it's one of the most important things about yoga. If I had to choose doing a physical movement or doing breath work, I would pick seated breath work. If I was on a deserted island and I could choose one for the rest of my life, I would pick breath work. What kinds of breathing techniques do you enjoy, either personally or when you teach? And maybe it's both.
Personally, my favorite is alternate nostril breathing. I love that. Only because I feel like our society and our culture is very rational and logical, and a lot of efforting and a lot of to-doing to get things accomplished. It's true. So I feel like you need to balance it out with the feminine energy, the creative, and the intuitive. And so that's why I typically start my mornings off with a bit of alternate nostril breathing, just to balance whether you want to think of it as the right and the left side of the body, the male and, the female aspects, the creative and intuitive with the rational and the logical. It's just how you find that sort of balance between those worlds.
Seems so appropriate that you would do that since you love the yin yoga teaching. And of course, you have a background in yang as well.
Yeah.
It would make sense that you would be yin and yang with your own practice. This is your own routine in the morning, typically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or what often people refer to, I think, as like box breathing, or I call it samavriti, just an even part breath where maybe you're inhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4. So I love that sort of evenness to the breath and finding the evenness. I know it's one of your faves, but probably my least favorite is Kapalabhati. Only because I feel like I'm using my practice to ground and center me and as a balance to the craziness that is my life, being a mother, managing my schedule, my son's schedule. So for me, when I do Kapalabhati breathing, it leaves me a little too up, and I want to feel more grounded.
I love it.
Yeah.
I would hope that many yoga lovers will be able to realize this for themselves also. People who need more activity, who need more motivation, could recognize that they might need Kapalabhati, breath of fire. Most people in our society are like us, who are perhaps pitta dosha imbalanced. We're too fiery. We do too much. We might not need Kapalabhati. We might not need hot vinyasa, power flow, mega handstand, 3-hour long double classes. I can keep going because we might not need that, and yet we still do it. You just said something brilliant. You recognize what you don't need, and you don't do it. How about that?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, for me, everything is about harmony. What is going to bring me into a place where I feel harmonious, and not agitated or frustrated or overwhelmed. And I think that's what the beauty of having a yoga practice is. You're looking for where there might be a certain lack in life, and how can you use that practice to enhance or fill that gap or void so that you feel more balanced.
There's a concept in more esoteric yoga called moon, sun, fire. And the moon, sun, fire
Moon, sun, fire. Okay.
Moon and sun relate to what you'd probably think they relate to. Yin and yang energy. And then fire could be referred to as kundalini, but it could also be referred to as just increasing our power, which is what...
our vitality or...
Yes.
Okay.
Our super vitality.
Like life force?
Yes.
Okay.
Life and consciousness force. And the reason why the sequence is moon, sun, fire is because we don't want to build the strength and the power and the capacity until we get our yin or moon side handled first. It's this very specific sequence. Moon practices, yin yoga would be a practice to address our moon nature. Yin yoga would be calming and getting ourselves settled and grounded and resilient. Other moon practices, like you were saying, the alternate nostril practice, whenever we think of practices in yoga, they can be physical asanas, they can be vinyasas, they can be static postures, they can be breathing techniques, they can be kriyas where you move energy, or they can be meditation topics. Any of those things could be yin or yang, sun or moon or fire. You can achieve results not only through asanas. I know you know this. This is mainly for our listeners. When we address our moon nature, yin yoga, breathing through the left nostril and focusing on calm things. One of my favorite meditations is the still lake of the mind. You've probably heard me do it 100 times, where you imagine your mind like the surface of a lake and the moon is shining down. These are all getting us de-stimulated because the world is ridiculously stimulating, right? Then once we know we're kind of calm and we have some stability, we can think clearly, then do some sun practices, moon, sun. And then once we build some strength, we got the stability first though. This calmness is first, then build some sun energy. Then once we have both our yin and yang balanced, then we can work on the super consciousness, the fire part.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
So yes, I like Kapalabhati, but I also like the calming stuff first. I should show up to more yin classes too. I do yoga nidra a lot though, and I know that you like yoga nidra as well. That's a very nice yin practice. Moving back, you were mentioning that you like box breathing. Do you teach that in the yin classes sometimes? Do you do any specific breath work in the yin practices?
No, only if I'm subbing for your pranayama and meditation class. Not really. I don't aside from just an evenness to the breath. Every now and again, maybe I'll bring in 3-part breath, like Viloma 1 or Viloma 2, but it's very rare.
Now, specifically, Viloma is breaking the inhale and possibly the exhale into sections, right?
Yeah.
And when you say Viloma 1, is that putting one stop in the inhale?
Oh, no, just whether you want to focus on the inhale, breaking it up into 3 different parts, or whether you want to focus on the exhale, breaking it into 3 different
So
parts.
Viloma 1 would be working with the inhale, breaking it up.
Yes.
Okay.
So typically, talking about, okay, imagine the trunk of your body divided into 3 different sections. You have your pubic bone to about your navel, your belly button, that's section 1. You have your navel to the bottom of your sternum, your breastbone, that's about section 2. And then you have the bottom of your breastbone right up into the base of the neck or the collarbones, that's section 3. So take an inhale into the navel, brief pause, come back, a breath retention. Take another inhale into, the bottom of the rib sternum. One more sip of air, fill up the heart space, hold at the top, exhale. And then, so you can do that a few times, but then you can focus on inhaling and then exhaling a third. Yeah.
I love the fact that so many different traditions have similar techniques. They're just called different things. So I for sure have heard Viloma many times, and we're calling 1 working on the inhale, 2 is working on both inhale and exhale.
Oh, okay.
Is it ever? No, I'm asking.
No, I've only heard of Viloma 1, I guess in my lineage, Viloma 1, Viloma 2. One, you're focusing on breaking the inhale into 3 different parts, and in the other one, you're focused on breaking the exhale into 3 different parts.
What if you do both? Is that Viloma 3?
I guess I've never done that.
Okay. And is it only 3 sections, or can you do more?
Hey, anything's game.
Okay.
But typically it's 3 sections.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is done typically seated, or do you do it laying down?
I can do it seated, or I can do it laying down. Sometimes if you're laying, and especially if you propped your trunk up a bit on a bolster or something, or like a couple of blocks, it can be nice to feel the different quadrants filling up with air or releasing air.
How common is this taught in class? How often do you teach this in class?
I teach it every time I sub for you.
But not necessarily in the yin classes.
Not necessarily in every yin class.
Okay.
Every now and again I'll bring it in, but not all the time. And that's just more a feel, like
Sure.
I'm feeling like they need some breath work today. Yeah.
And then the box breathing, you were mentioning 4 counts inhaling.
Sometimes I do 3, sometimes I
Okay.
do 4, just kind of looking to see if people, if you say 4, that can be like, you can see people's face turning blue and purple.
Do you ever use a metronome? Like, I love my metronome. I'm surprised you didn't make fun of me for that yet.
Right. So, yeah, whether it's 3 or 4, just a certain evenness.
Do you do the retentions? Do you prefer that, or do you just do the inhales and then exhales?
I typically start with, let's say we're going to do 3. Inhale for 3, exhale for 3. And then after doing a few rounds of that, I'll bring in a pause at the top and a pause at the bottom in between the arising and dissolving cycles of the breath. So then I bring in, it's almost like we up the ante a little bit,
I love that technique so much. That could be done in the poses, or it could be done just as a seated standalone breathing practice. Kris, when you teach your yin trainings, which books or texts do you reference?
Well, because it's yin, I have them purchase Bernie Clark's book, which is The Guide to Yin Yoga.
Green cover, right?
The green cover.
Okay.
That's kind of the book we work with. But I also have them listen to podcasts. And I want them to hear the voices of the 3, I call them influencers, but the founders of Yin Yoga as we know it. So that's Paul Greeley, Sarah Powers, and Bernie Clark, because I want them to hear their different voices and how they came to Yin.
These 4 people, modern day people who are alive today?
All of them are still alive and kicking.
Okay.
There's also Polly Zink. Unfortunately, there's not like a lot of information out there on Polly Zink in terms of like podcasts. And he hasn't really written a book, something that you can refer people to. Even though I talk about him, there's really not, besides like a few brief sentences, there's not much more on Polly, but definitely Paul Greeley, Sarah Powers, and Bernie Clark. I know it's confusing because Polly Zink and Paul Greeley.
Yeah, 2 Paul.
Two Pauls.
Exactly.
And Paul.
And here I am. I don't do much yin at all, but I'm a Paul.
Yeah.
Are their teachings steadfast, or has it evolved? Has the practice of yin moved away from their original teachings? Or it hasn't even been that long, right? Since they came, yin was founded when?
Yeah, yin kind of came onto the scene probably, like 1990s?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like it's just natural that yoga evolves, right? But with Paul Greeley, I've heard him say in his podcast that he went and actually took from Polly Zink, who was more of a martial artist, not necessarily a yogi. He liked the stretching, not necessarily so much the kicks and the punches or whatnot. And he kind of noticed that, with yoga, we do that towards the latter part of the practice. So he kind of extrapolated it and said, hey, I'm going to try to make this a full class.
So Polly Zink didn't call it yin, yoga.
I think it was more just, and you know what, like I'm not a pro on this, but just in terms of, I think with Polly's Inc., it was more of an extension of stretching either before or after
martial arts.
His martial arts to gain more range of motion and flexibility.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Greeley and Powers were the ones who popularized.
It was more Paul Greeley who kind of created what we know today as yin yoga, and then Sarah Powers taking his class, really enjoying it and loving it, and also just being a very popular teacher at that time, you know, like Santa Monica, Yoga Works, you know, yoga was booming on the scene at that time, her kind of also popularizing it as well. And then Bernie Clark learned from both of them, Paul Greeley as well as Sarah Powers.
Like you said, yoga should evolve, and it's been around since before anyone knows. There are some ancient texts, of course. Do these founders of yin yoga, do they reference any of the ancient texts on yoga?
I mean, I think they're all so knowledgeable, and I think that just, if you are going to do a deep dive into yoga, whatever style, I feel like it's just a part of your journey. Yes, I mean, like when I hear them talk about podcasts, you know, Paul Greeley definitely talks about ancient texts. Sarah Powers, you know, talks about ancient texts, definitely more Buddhist.
Okay.
And then Bernie Clark is more of a scientist, so he's got more of that, like brainy kind of background.
I think we should. It's wonderful to bring in modern science to yoga. Otherwise, I think we lack some credibility if we can't ground what we're teaching in some provable, I'm putting it in quotes, provable modern day mainstream science. I think it's better for us that way. Sometimes yoga isn't even allowed in schools. It's religious. Let's use some science and explain why what we're doing is beneficial right now today for your physical body and your mind and emotions. It doesn't have to be anything about religion at all. As a matter of fact, yoga is not religious. So I'm glad that he brings in the scientific aspect.
Yeah.
So in the Yoga Sutras, you know, I like Kapalabhati and I like the Yoga Sutras a lot.
I was going to say my probably favorite ancient text is the Bhagavad Gita.
This is great. So you can bring in that. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, the guy who compiled them, in the second sutra of the whole thing, he tells us what yoga is, and that's yoga is calming the mind. Yoga is calming the mind, and that
Yoga's chitti vritti naroda.
Love it. Say it again. Say it again. I love how you do it. And that statement can blossom into a million things. Sun salutations, yin yoga, engaging your pelvic floor and imagining energy moving up your perineum, up your spine, focusing on a flame in the heart, learning Ekapada Galavasana, flying pigeon. Yoga's chitta vritti narodha, calming the mind, can be so many things, right? So yin yoga is one of those things. Would you agree with that statement, that all these things achieve that goal?
I mean, I feel like we often hear like it's a tree and there's different branches or whatnot.
Sure. What does the Bhagavad Gita say about the goal of yoga, or what it is at a deep level?
The Bhagavad Gita is a beautiful story in the sense that, I mean, like with the Yoga Sutras, I always felt like, speaking of cerebral, that to me was always more cerebral in terms of it's these short, terse little sections telling you what's going on in this thing that we call yoga.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And so I really love the Bhagavad Gita because it's a story. So it seems like it touches more the heart. And it actually comes from a bigger body of work called the Mahabharata. And this is just like a short little excerpt, epic poem. And it really takes place with Arjuna, who's on the battlefield. There's these two clans that are fighting, one kind of representing good and one representing bad. And in the middle of this fight, he realizes, man, a lot of people are going to die on both sides. And I love people on both sides. And he just is kind of frozen. He's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And the charioteer kind of drops his human image and you realize it's God incarnate. It's Krishna. And then this beautiful dialogue ensues about karma in action, or the fact that we have a certain duty and you have to live with a certain intentionality and you can't escape that duty by doing nothing. So it's really talking about karma and your kind of what is your purpose and your place in the world? Like, what are you here and meant to do?
That's so much bigger than a yoga class where you work on hamstrings.
Yeah.
But you just described how one of the major revered ancient texts describes yoga, and it's a whole ideology of life.
Yeah.
So how do you connect that to, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think that at some point in someone's human existence, if there's any sort of contemplation or reflection, we all ask those questions, right? We all ask those questions. Why am I here? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? You know, I feel like that's just a part of the human journey and the human experience. And so I feel like the book relates to those questions that we all come across at some point in our life.
Could I ask you to connect a yoga class to that? What's the relationship between going to a yoga class and that?
I feel like there's so many different types of yoga. If you're talking about an actual physical practice, maybe a little harder to connect, but just how you are in the world. I think a big component of yoga is this aspect of consciousness and being mindful. And we can't get answers to those questions until we start to become a bit more mindful of certain things in our life. And I think that's probably the connector, that whatever style of yoga you are practicing, whether it's moving your body with the synchronicity of the breath, whether it's hanging out in a pose and just kind of employing your inner senses to see what's going on in this specific region of your body. Is it a dull ache? How can I breathe into it and let that kind of dissipate? Whether it's meditation and trying to bring in a focal point so that you start to examine what lies beyond, beneath, or behind your constant stream of thinking, there's a similar element of mindfulness and being conscious. Yeah.
You just nailed it.
So I think that's in all, if you're talking about how you bring it in, I think that is what we're, as yoga teachers, hopefully you get to a place in your practice where you're not just trying to teach shapes so that they have more open hips and flexible hamstrings. Hopefully what you're trying to teach them is how to be mindful and how to be conscious of what's happening in their body. Yeah.
I mean, that translates out into their life. When they get a glimpse of that in the classroom, you're pulling back the curtain and you're showing them, look at all this amazingness that's back here in the subtle realms of you. You are aware of things you didn't even know about, this tightness in your hip or the way you breathe, or do you run from pain immediately, or do you lean into it a little bit to investigate? Do you do that out in life too? You've shown them something, and then hopefully it can't not. That's a double negative. It can't not translate out into their life.
Yeah. In so many ways, I feel like our yoga practice kind of mirrors or reflects probably how we are in the world.
That is exactly it.
So for the person, and I get it, we come to a warrior class for the first time, they put you in a warrior 2 and they ask you for hold for 5 to 7 breaths, your front thigh is burning and shaking, your arms are getting ready to give out, Are you the type of person that's going to try to do your best to find your breath and hang in there, or are you going to give up? Both are valid. Both are valid. But then you have to start to develop an awareness around both reasons, and why did you choose that?
That puts them in the arena for that experience to even happen. They wouldn't have even been able to realize that was available to them, that type of awareness, unless they come to a yoga. That's the first door that people can walk through, and then they can start applying that same concept of mindfulness out into their life. Why are my finances not where I want them to be? Why are my relationships not? Oh, maybe I can apply the same concepts that Kris taught me in class. Just chill, just breathe. She used all these different words for just breathe. Yes, your thigh is burning. It's okay. It's okay. It's temporary. There's a silver lining. You'll build muscles. You're going to breathe. You're going to learn resiliency. I can do that out here in my life. I can do that with this tough conversation with my boss or with my employee.
Yeah.
Kris was right.
And then also understanding that life is challenging and that we grow in those moments of pain, sorrow, challenge. We grow in difficulty, and that's okay. Sometimes I think, there's this thing that life is supposed to be just always going my way.
Do people really think that? I hope they don't.
Well, that it's supposed to be easy. I think, doesn't Greg Holmes say it when you're in his class, when you want to give up, that's when the work begins. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
That's how to connect to something greater through the physical practice.
Yeah. And as you said, it's all about building a certain resiliency.
Wow. What do you think the goal of it all is? Does the Bhagavad Gita give an ultimate goal? Calming the mind is a goal. Learning resilience. We've talked about all these intermediary goals, but is there a final goal?
Well, almost, what do they call it in the Bhagavad Gita? A non-doing, or an effortless action, in the sense that if there's something that you want to do, ask yourself the intention, the reason behind it. Do it because it adds some sort of value to your life. It brings you joy. You love to do it. but can you let go of the expectation of how it's supposed to play out? Can you let go of the inner template of this is how the reward that I'm supposed to get? So there's this sense of put forth the effort, but you've got to let go of the expectation.
That is the ultimate practice in yoga. That's in the sutras too. That's called vairagya.
Yeah.
Non-attachment.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate practice. Can you be non-attached and still do the work and still wake up in the morning with intention, with motivation and will and drive, without being attached to the direct results of your actions?
Yeah.
I'd love to see if we can talk about Ishvara Pranidhana for a moment. Our viewers, some might know what that means. Resignation. The Yoga Sutras usually translate Ishvara to God, but I don't love that. I like to say resignation to nature or to the universe. And the way I explain that is the way you did. You just trust that the universe has got your back. You don't need to know the exact details of how this is going to play out. You don't need to be an accountant. Don't try to micromanage the universe. It's bigger than we are.
Yeah.
We don't know everything that's going on in the universe. Sit down, son, and let the universe provide.
Yeah.
Just do your work. You have one body right now. Walk and do your thing. Don't worry about the universe.
Yeah.
It's got your back. That's Ishvara Pranidhana, resigning yourself to the fact that we are part of a whole. It's like we're little cells in the bigger body. Each cell doesn't question others. Blood cells over here aren't going to worry about what the fingernail cell over here is doing. They're doing their blood cell thing over here. That's what that's beautiful. And I try to remind myself of that.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? That's the hard piece, I think, of any practice, And I even look at it with my son, like, look, like, I study, I work hard, I want the A, And it's just like you see how certain things are ingrained or conditioned at a young age, and so it might be harder to break that pattern as you get a little older. Well, I worked hard and I put in the effort. How come I'm not getting the results I expect, But yeah, inevitably life will teach us a lesson in that area, right? That, like, again, kind of just do the work and know that something will happen from it,
Something will happen. We should also prepare ourselves for changes.
Yeah.
If your path that you thought you studied for so hard, and if that path doesn't go in a straight line to where you thought, we should back up for a second and reverse time and go back and say, okay, this is my goal. I'm going to really like what The Secret said. I'm going to manifest this. I got a clear vision. I'm going to breathe into it. I'm going to do some Kapalabhati and generate a lot of power here and go towards that goal. And I know that I'm going to probably go here and then here and then there and then maybe back a few steps here. But I'm going to, by golly, I'm going to get to something like that eventually, even if it's not the exact straight line. I think that's kind of like obvious. And if we forget that, we need to check ourselves.
I think a lot of people forget that.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think, we do. We put in the time and the energy and the effort, and we want a certain result. And like I said, I feel like much of yoga is trying to teach you how to unlearn that,
Yeah. In our last few moments here, what should we share that's of value? How can people do yoga better, maybe? I think there's a lot of yoga that is purely physical fitness.
I think that's okay. I think we're all on different legs of the journey, right? I think that many of us, when we initially come in through the doorway of yoga, we're coming into the physical practice. So it makes sense that you're going to be about your body. I think that if you stick with it, and as you move towards your wisdom years, there's a certain maturity and growth that happens that you perhaps naturally start to delve into the philosophy, the spirituality of it. So, I mean, I think it's okay. I think to get to the part of yoga that you would like to probably bring in, you probably have to experience it being a little bit more superficial first.
There probably is a journey like that for most people.
Yeah.
It'd be rare for someone to dive right into the spiritual part of it. When most yoga, you go into a class, it's physical. It's a physical class.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you can necessarily do yoga better. I think you appreciate all of it in its many different forms and facets, right?
They can close their mouth and breathe through their nose. Just playing around.
Paul says that. I do not.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I feel like yoga is also just about accepting who you are and where you are and remembering that you're doing the best that you can.
Should we try to connect with our soul more in a better way? I'm being funny about it better. Do you think we should work on that?
Connecting with soul?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that this journey of life?
If you believe in that, yeah. Many people say the journey of life is to be happy or to just practice love.
I think that's like, again, different languaging for
Same thing?
commonality. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
See, this is why you're the eternal diplomat. You're bringing everyone together. I love that.
You know, whether you feel like you're here to really, you know, devote yourself to this feeling we call love, or whether you're here to somehow advance your soul, to me, I'm like, it's just a different way of saying kind of the same thing. Yeah. Even though maybe the scientist doesn't particularly want to use the word soul.
Because they can't find it. Like if they dissect the brain, where is the soul? Like, is it up there or is it over here? Or it could be in your shoulder. We don't know where the soul is.
But I think, again, maybe, you know, great way to come full circle about, do you believe in magic, right? Like, to some degree, like, how we are created is magical. There is an egg that meets a sperm, and poof, there's a spark of life and a being is created.
Explain that, Mr. Scientist. Show me.
So, you know, I think the fact that life can be kind of created as these two forces join, that's magic, you know? And
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
So,
it's creating something that wasn't there before.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think brings it back full circle. Do you believe in magic? Yes, I do.
Yes, we do. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No last thoughts. You know?
Anything you're working on besides the yin training that you'd like to share? Anything coming down the pipe for Kris Blunt, perhaps?
No, I mean, like, I've got the yin training in October at Yoga Sanctuary. I've got the yin training at yin and true yin training at True Fusion in February. Constantly teaching my group classes at True Fusion as well as Kintsugi. You can find me on Instagram. That's
You teach some kids classes sometimes, don't you?
I do teach kids classes. It's more of a private setting for me. Like once COVID happened, there was like almost like a pod that came together. So I come in once a week and I teach them kids yoga, just kind of so they meet their required physical fitness or PE credit. So yes, I do teach kids.
Do you think there'd be interest in an actual class for young people?
I used to teach pre-COVID. I used to teach a kids yoga class. Me and Vanessa Uroshami, we taught a kids yoga class at Blue Diamond.
Oh my gosh!
And a lot of the parents that were, you know, going to Pilates or, you know, Greg Holm, I think, used to have a vinyasa class. They would just drop their kids off. We would do yoga, and then they could come pick their kids up after. But then again, once COVID happened, it just kind of changed the nature of everything, and we haven't really brought back the kids yoga because I bring Zion with me. Yeah.
Do you think that should come back?
I mean, I think all kids can benefit from yoga. Just at any sort of an early age, trying to teach your kid tools when life is frustrating, when life is overwhelming, and remedies of how they can calm themselves down. Or, you know, I was just talking with Charles a little earlier, Zion's in cross country. So using your body when you get home at night, let's stretch out your hamstrings. Let's open up the hips a little bit so you don't feel so stiff and tight. I feel like that's a great benefit that can be used at any point in your life.
I would encourage Liam to go to that as well. He's in cross country too.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing that's coming down the pipe, hopefully, that the seed has been planted for a long time ago was a retreat that Kris Blunt and Paul Benedict made.
Aren't you getting ready to do a retreat? The soul
sand? I love leading retreats.
Sand, soul.
Yes, sand, sea, and soul retreat. It's a 4-night retreat in Cabo San Lucas at a friend's vacation house. It's very cool. But we had talked briefly about an exotic location that isn't too not Bali far, but not like Zion close either. Something in between.
Yeah.
Maybe we can I'd like to make that happen.
Yeah, that would be fun.
If any of you would like that, tell us where you want to go. Put some comments below and
tell us where you'd like to join us.
All right, Kris, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Paul, for inviting me. It's been fun.
It's been so much fun, old friend. And to our dear friend Charles, whose studio this is, and is available for you to do your podcast here as well. All right.
Toodles.